Wrestler Impact Edition Series 3. Yeah, it is Series 3. I have not been myself for the last couple of days because of weird noises in my wall, along with the weather messing with my throat, which has actually gotten a bit better now. Still taking some medicine for it. But, you know how there's always sore throat that lingers for weeks? That's what I got. But this is the booking. You don't need to hear about my woes, my problems, my quarries. This is about Impact Wrestling Series 3. And this is for the Inspiration. Because of the booking for Inspiration dealing with influence where there was no build-up. Literally. They didn't do it on regular Impact TV. Maybe they done it on BTI. But there's no build-up between the Inspiration having a divide between the influence. Nothing. Zero. Zip. Nothing. So I'm booking it. I'm going to book it, and I'm booking it for Genesis. Okay? This is not going to follow the normal timeline where they came in and Bound for Glory, and then they're going to have their match right now at Hard to Kill. No. I'm rebooking it. It's going to be Genesis of 2021, 22. Because we are going to be in 2021, and the influence will be dealing with the Inspiration when they come in just in the middle of, somewhere in the beginning to the middle of 2021, not near the end of 2021. So here we go. We already started hearing rumblings because the Iconics were fired in the end of 2020. I'm booking it this way. They were fired in 2020, and they were finally free in the beginning around February 2021. We'd already known that they had no work. No one knew anything but the Chris Van Vliet, and I am putting in actual information because Jessica McKay did say, and I say this again to anyone, that she said on Chris Van Vliet's podcast that she and Casey, that we were going to rework our stick for a little bit. So, in this story, they did. Not taking away anything already done, but they're just going to add to it. So, we heard rumblings that the Iconics were going to Impact Wrestling. We didn't know when, we didn't know where. But by the time near Slammiversary, we started seeing indications of them. The very same stuff they already got. The same intro. No problem. The same Titantron stuff. The same everything. This is what we get. They appear at Slammiversary. Just around June. Let's say Slammiversary is in June. They come in June. And this is where it gets interesting. They debut in June. They do not wrestle on June like they did in Bound for Glory. They appear in June. The same intro they did at Bound for Glory, they did at Slammiversary of 2021. They come out the same way. They come to the ring the same way. They get the same cheers the same way. But, unlike Bound for Glory, they don't wrestle. And they don't do the original stick at first. They come out and they say simply, and this is Cassie, because she'll be the one that's talking first. She says, "Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Cassie. This is Jesse. We were once known as the Iconics. We were once known as the influential tag team for women's wrestling. That was a crock, a joke, a lie. We cared for wrestling, but we did not get what we really wanted. We wanted to make sure tag team wrestling for women was truly loved and admired. But it didn't happen. Taking nothing away from the women who wrestled with us. We didn't get what we wanted. It didn't get spotlighted, and it didn't get respect. And now Jessie, or Jessica, she says, that's right, puts her arm around her neck and says, I know we're breaking the fourth wall. I know nobody wants to see this. They'd rather see us be who we once were, the Iconics. And there's a part of us that are still the Iconics. But we want to influence people. We want to influence people to make people understand that real women's tag team wrestling means something. We want to show who we truly are. I'm Jessica. Jess. This is Cassie. We will influence the future by not being what they create us to be, but what we want to be. We are the inspiration. We will inspire, but we will learn. That's what we really want. They are faces here, guys, not heels. Now, mind you, this is not about them rushing into the ring. This is about introducing them to the fans that already remember them, just like Rangers of Wrestling. In real life, Rangers of Wrestling loves the Iconics. And I'm sure she's loving the influence, but I do not agree. If she's happy with their booking, I don't know why she likes them if she doesn't want better booking for them. Because they should have a storyline, not just a match. Now, for the next couple of weeks, they're not on Impact Wrestling. What Impact does, since they are partnered with New Japan Pro Wrestling and have done some partnerships in AEW and NWA, because right now Mickie James is working between NWA and Impact Wrestling. She decides to let them appear on NWA, and she's in NWA TV in Hotlanta. And she says to everyone, ladies and gentlemen, I am Mickie James. As you can see, I am the Impact Champion. But I'm a little more than that. I'm still an executive of this company. And I want women, no matter where, to be inspired to do more, to be more. So I have two people here that I've known for quite a long time. And they want to speak. And the influence comes out. Now, mind you, while this is happening, all the women who are in the back of NWA, they're there. Now, there's not many women on NWA, as you know, in real life. So they filled out their roster up to about 18 women now. They got 18 women. And they got like 9 women. Well, they got roughly 10 women for the Burke, which is the women's champion. And they got 4 teams for their tag division, because they do have it. So they come out and they address everybody, and they see everybody. Some people they do recognize and some people they don't. And they say, how you doing, girls? I know you're wondering why the hell we're here. Why we even open our mouths? Because let's be honest, the way we were booked, and they broke the fourth wall again. And this is Jessie. That says, not Cassie. Cassie spoke at Impact Wrestling, but Jessie speaks at NWA. And she says, I know you girls are wondering why the hell we here. Thinking we're taking your thunder. No, girls, no. We're saying this because this needs to be stated not just on Impact TV, but here in NWA. We were the inspiration. The inspiration was the Iconics. We clearly were never used the way we really wanted to be. We wanted to do tag team wrestling. We loved tag team wrestling. Yes, we loved to be heel or face, no matter what. But we wanted more for tag team wrestling for women. We are tag team. That's all we ever wanted. That's all we ever cared about. And that didn't happen. But you got a tag team belt here, just like in Impact Wrestling. And clearly, the women here bust their butts to do their best. We want you to know that we want to learn. We want to come here too and work with you guys, not to inspire you to be better because we're better than you. No, we want to inspire to be whoever you want to be. We want to be the best we can be, so we want to learn from you. So in this respect, after this is done, the next couple of months, they have tapings, not just Impact Wrestling, where they wrestle the women there. They also wrestle the women in NWA and say clearly, this is not about dominating you. We want to learn from you. We want to learn how to be better wrestlers. I'm incorporating what was honestly said on Chris Van Vlien's video, where they wanted to be better. They wanted to improve their stick. They wanted to come up with new ideas. So Whatever they came up with Impact Wrestling, their ideas for storylines, their ideas for their character are being tested on NWA. And while they're on NWA, they interact with Allison Kay. They interact with Camille. They interact with Melina, which they never really got a chance to interact with Melina. They interact with Paige. They interact clearly with Natalia, that thick woman. I can't remember her last name. They legitimately interact with them all, and they start seeing their personalities. They start learning from them. No attitudes. They're wrestling them, and in NWA, finally they start showing scenes in the back where they're talking with them. Legitimate. They're literally doing kayfabe. They're seeing the influence, talking with these women, hugging them, and learning from them. This is what they wanted. Next, after about 2 to 3 months at Impact Wrestling, they're gone. They'd gone to NWA, and everyone knew. And they even say at Impact, they're currently in NWA learning. And they show scenes of it. At least a few 10, 20 seconds of them being in NWA, learning. And we also see what's going on with Mickie James. And we also see what's going on with Nick Aldis, the former Magnus. Because sooner or later, Magnus goes to Impact Wrestling. The Nick Aldis, now that's what he calls himself. And he does a wrestling match or two over there with his wife and by himself. A little bit of cross-promotion, a little cross-pollination, as you see fit, my darlings. But they next go to New Japan Pro Wrestling because there is an affiliation with Impact Wrestling. They go to New Japan Pro Wrestling strong. They're not going to New Japan Pro Wrestling. They go to the strong version. And when they're in the strong version, they meet other women there too. Whatever women that are there. I still haven't seen strong. Every time when I want to watch it, I haven't had the time. It's almost impossible to watch anything because either I'm doing animation or I'm doing this, and I always tend to forget. Sorry, guys. But they go to New Japan Strong. They start working with the women there. They start working with the Japanese female wrestlers that are there, as well as some European and Mexican wrestlers, and they're working there too. But unlike Impact and NWA, they don't go in the middle of the ring and they say what they say. They go in the ring and they wrestle. While they've been in Impact for about 3 months, which is roughly, they've done enough tapings for like 5 to 6 months. Easily. And in NWA, they've done at least 2 to 3 months worth of tapings. They go to New Japan Pro Strong, and they wrestle there as well. They learn the Sojo, that's the women's wrestlers, the Sojo style of Japanese strong wrestling. You're not playing around. And their styles finally changed because they were still acting like the Iconics in the wrestling style in Impact and in NWA. But now when they go to New Japan Pro Strong, they start taking a little bit of what they remember in NWA and Impact, but they generally start going to a Japanese style of hard, strong style female wrestling, the Sojos. I believe that's what they're called. And you got Cassie being the fast-paced wrestler. She's the one that does fast-paced wrestling. A lot of high, fast impact hits. And some good ground wrestling. And then for Jessie, because Jessie, and I'm going to be honest to you guys, Jessie seems to be very, very klutzy. She gives off a look of someone who's a very big klutz. Now, I'm not great myself. Even before my leg and my back messed up, I was never great. I always was a klutz myself. Even though I could run fast, I was always klutzy. So in this case, she doesn't do a fast-paced wrestling match. She learns a lot of wrestling holds and submission. She goes from being a tag team specialist that just does a lot of moves together and not really make more of her style. She does the tag team wrestling, but also while they're in New Japan Pro Strong, they both learn to be individual wrestlers while they're there, and then they tag together and rework what they learned from New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong to become better wrestlers. So Cass is a high impact wrestler, high speed, high impact, does some holds. And then you got Jessie, who is methodical, who does mainly holds and also does a lot of submission. She's worked on submission. She doesn't look as klutzy. She seems a lot more confident and not being arrogant, but showing confidence. She's calm. She's controlled. She isn't screaming and yelling like she normally does. She's now reworked her style. And then before they leave, they start working together as a tag team where they take the best from both worlds that they've combined, which was NWA, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Strong, and now the style they both have is this. Cass will start the match, where she's very fast-paced, does high-impact moves, kind of like the Luchadora, does a lot of fast-paced work as a technical or technicano, or whatever they call it for women. And she's doing all the beginning of the match, high-speed, fast-paced. When the middle of the match comes, that's when Jess takes over. She slows it down. She does a lot of methodical work where she's doing a lot of wrestling holds. She doesn't hold the person on the ground for more than a few seconds. She changes from hold to hold. Then she tries the submission. She tries 3 more holds. She gives a good strong impact, but then she switches back to Cass, who again does some fast pace. And then before the end of the match, they both would do tag team wrestling where they both go in the middle of the ring with their opponent and they start doing double teaming where it's either methodical, where they both pound the person, or high fast pace where both of them would do a fast paced attack and high impact. By that, after 4 or 5 months in New Japan Pro Strong where they kept showing, understand, they're still contracted under Impact Wrestling. They, in this point, have been showing about maybe 40 to 2 minutes, 40 seconds to at least a minute or two of their work, like in NWA. They've been showing New Japan Pro Strong so people don't forget them. And they also do promos clearly stating, hello Impact Wrestling, we are the inspiration. I know we haven't been there, but we're learning. Watch us work in this match. And each time they show them without each week when they're not there, they say something inspiring, not just to the women, but also to the men. Cassie would say, we finished our match within about 10 minutes. Now, it wasn't because we just needed to get it done quick. It's because we knew this team was not as great as us. And we know when it comes to Chris Bay, he's just like us. He knows when it's time to get it done because the person is that good. How to get it done, where to get it done. We believe in Chris Bay. We believe in our brother in Impact Wrestling. We love you. Do your job. You can do it. And they're inspiring. Now, it sounds like it's going to be annoying, and that's the purpose of it. They're not meant to stay faces forever, guys. This is beginning to build into them turning heel. Now, by this time, as they're doing this for several months, almost an entire year they do this. They go from Impact Wrestling where they stay 3 or 4 months. Then they go to NWA where they stay for 3 or 4 months. And then finally New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong, they stay there for 3 to 4 months. Say about 4 months for each promotion. By the year's end, they come back. And when they come back, and Genesis will start at March, not January. March is when Genesis is going to be aired. Because I know it usually in January, they moved it back by 2 months. 3 months. They move it back. They wanted to make sure they had enough time to do what's needed. They do an Impact Plus show 1 or 2, but the first true pay-per-view of 2022 is the Genesis. And that around December, they finally come back. Around December 30th. And it's already Christmas, it's about to be New Year's, and in this situation, they've already filmed it where they meet up with Tennille Dashwood and Madison Rayne, who are now, at this time, they are not the tag champs yet. DK is still the champs, but they're about to have an Impact Plus show the beginning of January to get a shot at those titles. And the kicker here is that Cass and Jess have not seen Tennille yet because she had been injured. She finally comes back. And on that night, for Impact, is on a Thursday. I don't know if in real life it's going to be Thursday. But on that Thursday, they finally meet each other. And they're not going to try and hide like they did when they finally came back after Bound for Glory. They showed they knew each other. They were so happy to finally be all together. And for the next 3 weeks, they're always being seen together. No matches. Because after their match with DK, they don't win. There was outside interference. So they start spending the next month together. Cass, Jess, Tenille are just having so much fun talking about the past, and they're showing scenes at least of 30, 40 seconds when they do their backstage segments. They show their lives together. They're actually doing interviews together, and they show what they went through when it comes to WrestleGate or whatever type of promotion that's going on in Australia, that they met one another and knew each other. And this goes on going into the next month. But once they're done, that's when the tag team started to go to a tournament. And they're going to go for a tournament because at that time, unfortunately, Havoc gets hurt in storyline. And she can't wrestle. And Su Yung comes back to work with a Rosemary. But Rosemary and Su Yung cannot hold the titles together. So Rosemary and Havoc are stripped of the titles. And by the time it reaches into Genesis is when the tag teams are going to have their final match. Now, this is now going into 2 months left. Within those 2 months, the inspiration is wrestling. The influence is wrestling. The K is wrestling. Su Yung is a part of it. You also have Jordan Grace and Rachel Ellering. You also have another tag team. That's Ruby Soho and Sarah Logan. Because they come back. Of course, I don't know what Sarah Logan would use as a name. Maybe she just used Sarah. But there's a whole bunch of teams that either from outside or in Impact that are wrestling one another. And as this is going on, Tenille as well as Cass and Jess are still talking to each other, but they haven't met each other in the ring yet. But they're getting closer and closer because they went for the quarterfinals, they went for the semifinals, and they haven't reached the finals yet. But by the time they're going to reach one another, that's when the animosity really truly comes out, because Cass says to Tenille, you know, you've done really good compared to what we used to know you back in Australia. He says, what do you mean by that? Says, every time we faced you, either when we were singles and you were in a tag with somebody else, with this person or that person, we whooped your ass so bad. And Tenille gets really offended. He says, what the hell are you talking about? I always was fair with you guys. Why are you acting like this now? And Jess comes up to her and says, you know why? Because out of the 3 Aussies here, you were always the odd one out. Because you were no match for us. Even when we went over to Ireland and worked with Prince Albert, which is Finn Balor, and his promotion, and they say the promotion, you could still not get it done even in singles. Even we faced you in singles when we went over to Prince Albert's school and promotion, and we whooped your ass. And she was totally offended and said, I can't believe you say that. That's when we were all just starting out. You're supposed to be my friends. I haven't seen you in years, being where you were before, and I got kicked out of the same company. And we keep in contact, but it's always been difficult. Now we're together, and now you're acting like this? Why? And they looked at her and said, simple. We've inspired ourselves to be better than you. That's what Cass says to Tenille dead in the face. And then they beat up on Cass. They beat up on Madison Rayne. And they make it clear that this championship is going to be theirs. No one's taking it from them. We're not like we were. And this is what happened the next day. Because everyone saw what happened. And people were booing them because they were friends with the influence. And they say, 100%, we're not here to make friends. We won't lie. We loved Tenille. She was our friend. We all started together almost at the same time. Me and Cass started. This is Jess. Me and Cass started together first. Then later we saw Tenille. But we knew between us, she was never going to be our equal. But we still loved her. She was an Aussie just like us, and she was our friend. But Who left our company first? She did. She never was at WrestleMania. We were. She never headlined anything. We can honestly say, or I can honestly say, this is going with Jessie at WrestleMania, where she didn't headline a match, but she was a part of a very high-profile match, and she says this, and she says it clearly. I may never headlined a WrestleMania or a pay-per-view, but you know what? At least I can say I was on one of the biggest promotions, biggest pay-per-views that existed. This one right here, she was working her butt off and got a title because at that time Cassie had won the women's title. Even though it's not real, I'm just saying. I was on one of the near-end matches of WrestleMania. I got the right to say what I want. She does. Tenille, what did she do? She went back to the promotion that we used to work in when we were back in Australia and did nothing except to get a title there, which means nothing. We've done something, she's done nothing. And we need to help her to understand that we're better than her. And she needs to know it. Grabbing a little bit of MJF. And by the time of Genesis, the influence is up against the inspiration because they both were the last two that made it. And they've had at least 2 to 3 weeks to build up into this because they showed them as friends. They showed them getting all attitudey. They showed animosity between the two. And then finally, even if it is within 3 weeks, you got 2 to 3 weeks of them being really nice to each other. 3 weeks. Then you got another 3 weeks of them having an attitude toward each other. And then finally, at Genesis, they finally culminate in that match. And the influence loses and inspiration wins. And when it's done, and the next night, the influence comes out and says, we are Knockouts champion of Impact Wrestling. But you know what? We are proud of ourselves because we worked hard at it. We didn't need to cheat. We have never cheated in any of our matches, and they didn't. They're the type of heels, well, they were acting face, that didn't need to cheat to win any match. They lost matches, but when they needed to win, they could win, and they did win. So for them, they won every match, and they didn't need to cheat. But then they made it clear, we're proud of what we have here. But guess what? We want more. We don't just want to be the women of Impact Wrestling's most greatest dominant champions. We're going to face every person here twice. But then after we're done with them, we're going around and grabbing some more titles. So for the next 4 months, they face every woman on the roster, every Knockouts tag team. And then they go to NWA. Not only did they go for the Hex, they go through everyone there that was a tag team, beat them, and got now 2 sets of belts. Now, New Japan Pro Wrestling, I do believe, has women tag belts, and they go to Strong where they're actually promoting it. They stay there for about a month or 2, and they win those titles. And then they head back to Impact Wrestling with 3 sets of belts, and they're around everyone holding these 3 belts, 2 on their shoulders, 1 around their waist, and they say that we are the GOATs of World Wrestling. True pro wrestling and true tag team wrestling starts and ends with us. The inspiration. If we can do it, you can too. But you gotta want it. We want it. And there you go. I have no idea if you're gonna like it. But this is the last of the series, at least for now, unless someone says please do more. Booking Wrestler Impact Edition Series 3. I hope you enjoyed this narrative that I came up with, or booking, actually, not narrative, booking. Please give me a comment below, and now this is going to be late. This is going to be released probably just before New Year's. So I got one I'm going to upload today, which is AEW, another one that's going to be uploaded before Christmas, another one that's going to, the second and third, that's going to be Impact. This will be the last one. Hope you enjoy it. Peace.